I'm working with Jersey Telecom in the last 8 years now. First, I was running the consumer on island business that expanded with some ventures that JT was investing off island. There's a travel SIM business based in the US, Australia, and most recently the accountability has grown into on island enterprise as well. Previously, I was working with Vodafone for 10 years in different places, from Turkey, Hungary to Cyprus. So I guess in sum up, 20 years already in telecom industry in different locations and venues.
What do you think to the security aspects or the transparency of the data on blockchain?
It's a double-edged sword. Because of the distributed ledger, it's impossible to tweak the system, which means not a Trojan horse can kill and at the very same time falsify all the records within the nodes. The problem with the security those comes, and mostly cryptocurrencies has showed that because of the security and because of the anonymity, it can be hijacked. And if somebody loses, let's say, a wallet containing cryptocurrencies, then it can be never recovered. So it is fairly secure in what transactions get recorded, but it's highly vulnerable when it comes to the individual holder of transactions or even some inventories. So it's far from being obvious that it's more secure than the current centralized way of holding information.
How would you say blockchain is useful to mobile network operators and what they offer today, and why?
I don't see yet, not with, in our case, efficient usage where I can turn it into a commercial success. And as deploring I am, or pathetic I am, I usually measure success in monetary terms. Something that I cannot crack, how can make money. Eventually I would say it's nice, but it's not going to survive in a long term. So right now, I don't see that as an end user proposition where we can create our own ecosystem where blockchain can work. Nevertheless, I do see that the technology, so the back-end systems, let's say the design of the next-gen mobile networks, for example, will be able to use authentications and the likes in the backhaul and the back-end, especially when it gets to 5G with multiplication of the base stations and the transactions and the authentications because of the small data sessions. I can see how blockchain will again change from the current centralized HLR VLR topology of the design. But I'm not an engineer, I'm not a mechanic, so I just see that it probably will work and will make the design of a mobile network probably more secure and probably even more bulletproof when it comes to any interventions and inside of it. But as I said, I'm more a commercial person, and what I can see right now, the only meaningful commercial use of the blockchain technology is what is then picked up with the end user market. Right now, the end user market definitely picked up the cryptocurrency, and the most famous one being the Bitcoin. If I just look at it right now, Bitcoin's distributed, the ledger is 150 gigabytes or so, and it's growing. Even just that, traveling and has to be downloaded. Any blocks is around a couple megabytes per now. So even just the transactions that are happening is going to be charged through our data access networks, whether it's mobile or fixed. So I can see some commercial benefit with that one. If the world would go on and would replace, which is quite unimaginable at this stage, the current monetary transaction system, which has, I think, about, 500 billion transactions per year, which would make, tens of billions in a month. So if that would be replaced with Bitcoin, the whole payload would grow. Also, that would nicely sustain data charging in the mobile network. So right now, this is how far my imagination is going, how we would benefit from from a blockchain technology, but mostly what will be sitting on top of the blockchain technology.
As with any industry, blockchain will have to have some industry standards and norms implemented. Who do you think will drive the creation of these standards and, more importantly, their enforcement?
Now, this is where the whole thing will become. And then once I started aforementionedly the size of blockchain, I do think when this is becoming more and more mainstream, whether it will be just recording transactions of any kind, not just monetary transactions of any kind between one or two persons, the size of blockchain will be becoming prohibitive to do the way it is not done like now, which is almost private persons can set up nodes and become validators, or in some case of Bitcoins, for example, crypto miners. The sad truth is, I think eventually the whole market is going to, around the use cases of what will be the blockchain effectively used, is going to centralize. Nevertheless, it won't be centralized around governments. So just give, for example, the finance industry, what is the most prevailing example of blockchain usage. Right now, the monetary system is run by central banks, and then it's been implemented, executed by commercial banks. And there are some settlement houses like Visa and MasterCards that are running the intermediary business. Now, when the traffic is going to move on to, let's say, cryptocurrencies and peer-to-peer transactions, suddenly the central banks will have no power of setting forexes and central bank rates and other elements. Commercial banks will not have anymore the funds, the accounts sitting with them, and they cannot use multiplication to get loans, which is the financial model for a commercial bank, until they get into speculations and other likes. Suddenly all these things will move into endpoints, nodes that will run on their own. However, the volume will be so high, the memory, the latency requirements will be such a huge, and the processing will be so huge that again it will be re-centralized. So I think it will be back into the hand in multi-conglomerates, data house owners, probably eventually the biggest multinational commercial banks who are going to standardize and going to run the whole system. So I'm sorry to say, whoever think that will be the next revolution of the little actors will get their hands on of a new one-to-one, peer-to-peer, no centralization. It will just move away from governments, and big corporations will run and standardize it because of commercial reasons, sustainability.